Good evening. Townsville is officially experiencing its worst flood on record. Sharon Gadella is there, and Sharon, there's been some major developments late this afternoon.
Yes, Kay, we've just quickly relocated to inside the local disaster coordination centre here tonight to try to bring you the very latest. This situation is deteriorating by the hour. Now, about an hour ago, I can tell you that residents in more than 20 Townsville suburbs, they were told to urgently move to higher ground. The Ross River Dam gates will now be fully open tonight from about 8:30 p.m. That will flood this city with some 2,000 cubic metres of water a second. Marlena Womp begins our coverage.
This is Townsville, as locals have never seen it.
Townsville has had the equivalent of more than 1 metre of rain over the last 7 days. This is an all-time record.
Way worse than the night of Noah in 1998. This rain is relentless.
As you can see behind there's no road left at all, and all the houses are gone.
Hundreds more homes have been inundated. Businesses are going under too.
Because of the higher tide, the letting of the water out of the dam, and just the continual raining and water that's not getting away now, it's just coming up further.
What do you think about what you're seeing?
Pretty scary.
Well, Marlena Womp, things are changing very rapidly here at the moment. What's the latest from where you are?
Sharon, I'm here on Charters Towers Road, where the SES is still helping to evacuate more people tonight. And just to reiterate, the latest advice from police is for residents to move away from the Ross River and go to higher ground before 8:30 tonight. Police warned that the dam's spillway gates may open to their full setting from 8:30 to 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, and that could lead to more flooding from rapid rises in the Ross River. Sharon?
Thanks, Marlena. Well, let's go live to Bianca Stone now in Hermit Park. Now, that's one of the city's hardest hit suburbs. Bianca, what's the situation like there at the moment?
Sharon, good evening. I can tell you the water is coming up here incredibly fast. Their fear now is, as darkness falls, more people are going to be caught unaware.
At 46 Sheriff Street, Ross Bennett is one of the few who refuses to leave.
This is your home, so you don't want to leave it. You know, this is the last resort, and where do you go?
The flood has claimed his bottom floor and backyard.
This is the front yard for the last 3 days. It's been looking like this.
But upstairs, the fridge is running, lights are on, so is the cricket, and he has company.
Keeps coming. You know, it's just unbelievable.
Well, Sarah Greenarch is in Cloncurry tonight, where, ironically, the rain is very welcome. Now, Sarah, are the falls expected to continue there?
Sharon, certainly for the time being, a severe weather warning has actually just been issued for these areas. It's been raining in some capacity here in Cloncurry since Monday, and one local we spoke with today says she believes it's been about a decade since the rain has been this steady and this good. It is expected to die off here, though, on Tuesday or Wednesday, and that is because a tropical low that's currently sitting to the north of us is expected to head back towards the east, back towards the coast, possibly towards Townsville. Everyone here is hoping that for everyone's sake that doesn't happen. The people here are just so very grateful with what they've received so far. When the puddles soak in, the clouds part and the sun returns, locals say for the first time in a long time, this slice of the outback will turn green.
Extraordinary. So last week we were feeding cows, licking dry feed just to keep them alive. This week we're all having a beer, watching the cricket.
A remarkable difference made possible by days of steady, decent rain here in the northwest.
If it pushes into Barclay, where I know it's really dry, give them fellas a bit of relief, and that helps everyone across Australia.
These days, Cloncurry resident Helen Monets is focused on gauging water levels for her garden.
Ooh, overflowing.
But she too lived on the land, a grazier, for 54 years.
Drought is such a dreadful thing. You're loading stock, you're loading feed, you're buying in feed. It just takes the cream off what you've earned.
The rivers up here are flowing fast, and now some of this water will drain through Channel Country, working its way into the river systems of other drought-stricken places, towns in the state's southwest.
People was just praying and hoping for rain. Now they've got it, they're not going to curse it either.
You don't hear anyone complaining. In Cloncurry, Sarah Greenalch, 7 News.
Well, I'm joined now by Townsville Mayor Jenny Hill. Now, Mayor Hill, you've just released these urgent warnings for people to move to higher ground. How serious is this?
This event is unprecedented. It's bigger than the event we had in '98, and we just don't know when it's going to stop.
Good evening. More than 1,000 people rescued in one night. Sharon, Townsville has never experienced flooding on this scale.
Oh, it certainly hasn't, Max, and it's not over yet. Incredibly, not a single life has been lost, and that's thanks to an around-the-clock rescue operation which saw residents plucked from homes using boats, helicopters, bushmasters and even council tip trucks.
It's catastrophic, unprecedented, uncharted. From up here, you can see why. This is Annandale, Aikenvale, Mundingburra and Applan's Weir. It gets worse further east around Anoomba and Adalia. This is what's left of Fairfield Shopping Centre.
Yeah, we've never seen this sort of water.
Like the rains, community spirit is strong. Even North Queensland Cowboys players are helping out. John Asiata, Gavin Cooper and Antonio Winterstein.
Antonio was at the front door, looked up and had a few people pretty impressed with that when I sent him the picture.
Their families among the few who stayed in Adalia overnight.
We had 5 families came over to our house.
Rescues and patrols continued right through the morning.
That's deep down there, right? Very.
Too deep in parts.
There is just so much water running into places where it's never been seen before. As the flooding continues, so do the rescues. And from up here, it's becoming clearer just how devastating and widespread this disaster is.
In Hermit Park, council dump trucks were used to take locals to evacuation points.
But this time is very bad.
The rain has eased, but water won't recede for several more hours. It rose steadily overnight after the Ross River Dam's floodgates were fully opened at 8:24 p.m, spewing out almost 2 million litres of water every second. Hundreds of locals downstream became stranded, so guided only by feel and flashlights, the army, swiftwater rescue crews, police and selfless citizens went door to door.
I was called out to help a lady with 2 children. She was stuck in waist-deep floodwater. She'd cut herself pretty badly, and I waded through the water and got them all out.
Residents were grouped in dinghies and moved to higher ground. More than 1,100 people were relocated, just hours after an emergency alert was activated.
The army came through and evacuated this house, single mum, 3 kids. Elderly lady over there, 2 women in there, and a couple in there with 2 kids.
Many locals claim they didn't have enough warning.
What do you got to do to make people move? What do you have to say to them? How many times do you have to give them warnings? We put out the EAs in plenty of time, the emergency alerts. We door knocked them, some of these areas twice. Some people thought they could get through this.
Even at this early stage, the Insurance Council estimates the damage bill to be over $20 million. The number of inundated homes is in the thousands and rising. The monsoon is still settling in with a watch area from Cardwell to Bowen, and locals urge to also watch out for crocodiles.
The dam gate, the water is still obviously coming down the Ross River. We're not sure what could happen with the Weather Bureau.
Children in Cloncurry have never seen rain like it in their lifetime, and their parents are praying for more.
Country kids aren't used to being confined, especially 5-year-old preppies who've never experienced rain like this.
I've seen flooded roads before too.
But not a whole week of rain?
No.
Some communities are now cut off, like Currumba, Normanton, Doomadgee, Julia Creek and McKinley. In the past 7 days, Cloncurry Airport has received 422 millimetres of rain. Its annual average is around 480. Hewendon's received 136 mils, Winton 82, and would be happy to see more. In flooded areas of the outback, wildlife is struggling. It's unfamiliar territory for livestock, even marine life, washed up on a paddock at Clarafield near Julia Creek. Muddy paws is a first for 12-week-old Ollie.
Ollie came out here when he was about 5.5 weeks old, and he had to be kept in air conditioning because it was so hot. Now it's raining, so he's still inside because it's so wet.
A small price to pay. Even in a mining area, water is the most valuable resource of them all.
Well, Sarah, there is a lot of water around. Where's it all heading?
Sharon, there certainly is. The water here in Cloncurry heads to the north, so it flows towards the Gulf. But anything that has fallen to the south of the range will now slow.
Good evening. There's growing heartache in Townsville tonight, with residents returning to devastated homes. And now confirmation of 2 deaths. Sharon, there is street after street of destruction.
Oh, that there is, Max. The last time we saw flooding on this scale in Queensland was in Brisbane and Ipswich in 2011. Now, as the water drops, more and more horror is revealed, including, as you mentioned, the bodies of 2 men.
The latest view of the widespread devastation. And now detail of the first loss of life. 2 bodies found in a drain near Aikenvale Library, understood to be those of 21-year-old Huey Morton and 23-year-old Troy Matheson. The receding water also revealing where 2 police officers almost lost their lives. Their paddy wagon was swept off the road, later saved by a swift water crew.
So when we got there, we could hear calls for help. We could see a police officer flashing a light in trees and another one on a power pole.
And Marlena, do we know how many homes have had water through them?
Sharon, 2,500, but only once a street-by-street damage assessment is complete will the true number be known.
Thanks, Marlena. Let's go to Joel Dry now. And Joel, that continued uncertainty, it is making the recovery even harder, isn't it?
Yeah, Sharon, the Ross River is still raging despite flood levels dropping slowly. But there is still warnings in place from the Bureau not to be complacent with the risk of further rises possible. And that could spell further destruction for a city already enduring record rainfall.
It's usually filled with customers, but today Fairfield Shopping Centre is filled with water. Store after store flooded, including Kmart, the centre likely to be out of action for weeks.
The floodwaters may have subsided, but the floodgates here at the Ross River Dam remain almost fully open and will likely remain so for the coming days, with the threat of more rain over the catchments a real risk.
The dam's operation will be reviewed at the end of this
year as it carved its devastating swathe through the city. Floodwaters roar through Queen's Road. This video captures the sheer ferocity of the torrent as it pours at pace through homes and streets. Even the might of the army was stopped in its tracks.
The water has come quite a bit higher. Have a look under here.
Last night the threat was to the city's north in Balgal Beach. Michelle Dorrington thought it couldn't get worse.
My partner died on Friday and now I've lost everything in the shed, but I'm safe. My animals are alive and I'll keep fighting.
Further inland from here, there's a new crisis tonight. Sarah Greenhalgh, what's the big fear now?
Well, Sharon, this evening farmers here in the northwest would like conditions to ease. They want this rain to stop, fearing huge stock losses. The Premier has said she will be speaking with the Prime Minister now about offering flood assistance to graziers. It just goes to show how quickly things can change. Drought one day, flood the next, as water now flows through remote Queensland. Almost a year's worth of rain bringing an outback waterfall to life.
It's only like this for a few days while it rains, and then it dries up and it ends up, bone dry. Looks like we're in Cairns or up in the Daintree or something.
It's actually halfway between Cloncurry and Mount Isa on Eddie Campbell's family property, literally his own backyard.
It's not like this for very long.
A temporary tourist attraction from a rain event no one out west expected to last this long.
Some of the early forecasts were really promising, but
when some of the falls have got up to, especially over 100 mils a night, it's caught people by surprise.
After receiving a record 200 plus mils overnight, Julia Creek is an inland island. For some communities, the celebrations have now ended. Weak and even strong livestock are now being exposed to what graziers say are critical conditions there.
Joel, let's go straight to you first. You have breaking news.
I do, Michael. I can confirm that the C-17 Globemaster has just touched down here at RAF Base Townsville. And if my cameraman points off into the distance, those two lights with the red one flashing on top of it is the very large military aircraft which has made its way all the way from RAF Base Amberley, just outside of Brisbane. It is very much an aid flight that has been hastily arranged. And in its belly are 13 pallets of groceries, in effect. I'm told it's made up largely. That's a little bit easier to manage.
Good job, Joel, getting a bit loud. We're definitely going to come back to you because we want to see that start to unload. But for now, let's go to Sarah Greenhalgh. Sarah, good evening to you. There was good news for the drought-stricken farmers, but it's quickly turning into a disaster out west.
Good evening, Michael. Yeah, that is correct. They had been praying for months and months in these drought-stricken areas in the northwest for rain, but tonight they need that rain to stop in some...
Good evening. Hundreds of thousands of cattle are dying in the flood disaster which could wipe out the industry in Queensland's northwest. Sharon, how desperate is it?
Well, Max, I can tell you as this rain keeps tumbling down, some producers have already lost 80% of their stock. They say unless they can get food on the ground in the next 24 hours, they'll lose the rest.
It's hard to believe this is the middle of the Queensland outback. Now an inland ocean covering hundreds of thousands of acres. 11 days ago, they were dry, dusty paddocks.
There's a white poly tank there, see, it's just digging down the water, so that means there's about 2 metres of water there.
For the first time, we can show you north of Julia Creek, where 3 flooded river systems meet. Properties are surrounded, fence lines barely visible, and countless livestock lost.
These are tough people, the poor buggers.
7 News was on board as a local grazier, along with the Federal Agriculture Minister, witnessed the extent of this disaster firsthand.
Absolutely devastating. What we need to do is give them what they need and get the hell out of their lives and let them do it, because they know best.
At Bernard Station, they've endured 6 years, receiving half their annual rainfall. 2019 has brought a year's worth in 8 days.
And for the last few days, it's been bordering on cold for us, and what has happened in the paddock is pretty catastrophic.
We're hearing stories of people on the where there's more black soil downs, heavier country, reporting 100% losses.
Enough to ruin some producers. Flying into Cloncurry this afternoon, the Premier said the situation out west is far worse than she imagined.
I spoke to a couple that had to be rescued from the top of their roof today. That's been an ordeal for them. And as far as the eye can see, there are dead cattle everywhere.
Graziers say for those animals stranded in water and black soil, fodder drops could actually make the situation worse. But for those that have managed to make it to higher, harder ground, hay can't come soon enough.
Fodder drops in some areas would be very beneficial, but it needs to happen in a hurry.
Elsewhere in Richmond, water has exceeded the 1974 flood level and it's still rising.
That's going to mean that major flooding will continue for the next few days.
These German tourists were rescued 30 kilometres north of Charters Towers after becoming stranded between creeks. Tonight, they're safe, unlike so many other lives on the land.
It will ruin some people. Mother Nature is sent to try us.
They've had it tougher. They'll have it tougher again, but they won't give up.
And Sarah, what is this going to do to beef prices?
Well, Sharon, consumers in the city will certainly feel a price increase at the checkout, but spare a thought for these poor graziers. They have already endured so much, and now it will cost them even more to restock their land. Some relief is being offered.
Townsville, McLean, how serious is this looting we're hearing about?
Yes, Sharon, residents are being urged to be on high alert tonight with heartless thieves targeting suburbs right across Townsville, including...
Go to Outback Queensland. The flooding emergency there has really hit crisis point this evening. Our reporter Sarah Greenolch and her cameraman Danny Burton spent this afternoon in a helicopter flying over the worst affected regions, having a look at the damage from above. It comes as the federal government revealed that it believes that more than 250,000 head of cattle could be dead after the torrential downpour led to widespread destruction. Let's go to our reporter Sarah Greenolch. She's in Cloncurry, which is 700 kilometres west of Townsville. Sarah, good evening. It is a heartbreaking situation. What was it like up in that chopper and what did you see?
Oh, good evening, Michael. Absolutely heartbreaking. It was just incredible being above what is now essentially an inland ocean.
Pictures we are about to show you are confronting, but graziers in northwest Queensland, they want you to see the heartbreaking reality. They are facing catastrophic losses after the floods. Hundreds of thousands of animals are feared gone. Farmers are begging for fodder to be dropped on their properties, with time fast running out.
The northwest woke to sunshine and blue skies, but these are dark days. Graziers are hurting.
You can see cow after cow after cow. Anything that's down and can't get up now, it isn't going to get up.
Even on properties that aren't flooded, countless cattle are dead after being exposed to the elements. The losses are extreme.
I mean, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 dead cows there.
Calves left without mothers.
I could see him there, and the side that he was lying on after 10 days in the rain and the cold wind was frozen, and I stood him up and tried to get his circulation going, but you know that it wasn't going to work.
Some areas further north are still underwater. Roger Jeffress is delivering avgas to choppers, conducting confronting aerial assessments. For one farmer, it became too much.
He had run out of bullets shooting bog cattle, and he saw a paddock with nothing left in it. And I've never seen, he was white and just staring into the distance and quite shocked.
Fodder drops are being organised locally, but this C-17 Globemaster with huge amounts of hay has been sitting on the tarmac at Amberley Air Base for 3 days. No level of government can explain why it hasn't left.
The need for fodder is urgent. It has been urgent now for a couple of days.
The plane is sitting at Amberley. It should be in the air.
A coordination centre has been set up and we are listening to the local mayors, the local landholders, the cattle producers about where is the best place to do those fodder drops.
The true extent of this disaster won't be known until floodwaters recede. That could take days. In some areas, big producers have lost tens of thousands of cattle. Other family-run operations have lost everything. This note was written to a teary mum by her children, offering money from their bank accounts to help with the loss. The big banks will need to help too.
They need to get their breeding stock back in place. I mean, you can't pay off a loan if you don't have breeding stock.
The once long-awaited rain may have stopped, but its devastating damage will last years.
Some will recover, some won't.
Just so tough to watch those pictures, but Sarah, the Defence Force is now moving in to assist.
It is, Sharon. Just in the past 2 minutes, a Chinook has taken off here from Cloncurry Airport, headed back to Townsville. But earlier today, it was dropping off fuel to cut off communities in Julia Creek. Over the next few days, that fuel will be used for fodder drops. And this evening, we are hearing talk that we may finally see that C-17 touch down here in Cloncurry sometime tonight. But logistics is proving to be a real issue. 1,500 bales of hay arrived in Longreach today, but it can't make it via road any further north than Winton. But Sharon, it is just absolutely devastating. I spoke with one grazier earlier today on the phone. She was in tears, saying the cattle that have survived, they desperately need to be fed.
Very sad indeed. All right, thank you, Sarah.